This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. You can find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Welcome to my fully operational Star Wars analysis. I'm talking about episode 6 of the classic, the only, the real Star Wars saga. Of course, episode 6 would be Return of the Jedi. You thought I was going to say Revenge of the Sith, didn't you? No, I don't play that way, okay? MJ don't play that way. Anyway, so this is the last leg on my journey to Ahsoka, because I'm rewatching the original saga in 2023 in preparation for Ahsoka, partly because Ahsoka takes place after, it takes place after Return of the Jedi, somewhere in and around Mando, and I don't exactly know where, because as far as I can tell, they are playing fast and loose with where things are. Mando takes place 5 years post Return of the Jedi. I believe some of this Ahsoka show may take place shortly after, like Rebels, the cartoon series, had a flash forward, sort of. Had a flash forward to post Return of the Jedi, and I don't even know how far past Return of the Jedi that was, but I believe some of the Ahsoka show happens during that time period, and then it kind of maybe jumps around a little bit, so I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, it's in that era, it's in that milieu, and it'd been a long time since I sat down and watched the Star Wars movies, and I thought, you know what, it's time. So I decided I'll do it as a journey to Ahsoka, and then I'll get into talking about Ahsoka. But I don't want to talk about Ahsoka anymore, because, I'm all about that Sky Guy 2.0. Snips can get out of here with that nonsense for now. So, and if you're not a Star Wars, the Clone Wars fan, then you won't know what I'm talking about. And if you are, then you're probably embarrassed of me and shaking your head right now. And that's okay. I don't mind. I'm embarrassed of you too. So here we go. One thing that really... I don't know how to talk about this movie, because I talked about the other movies all in the context of starting from The Phantom Menace, and how the first 3 movies are the tragedy of Darth Vader, or the fall of Anakin Skywalker, and the original trilogy is the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, and through his children, of course. He does not do it on his own. That's for darn sure. And I kind of don't want to talk about that. I might get back to that in a little bit, but I just want to talk about some, I don't know, light, fluffy, like insubstantive, is that the right word? Unsubstantial things that I noticed in this movie, and that I just have been wanting to talk about, so I'll do that now. I absolutely love the cinematography and the establishing shots of these movies. Specifically, Lucas created the visual language of Star Wars, or, his DP did, or whatever. I don't know, but whatever it is, it started in A New Hope, continued in Empire, and perhaps was perfected in Return of the Jedi, and then it just kept going, and it kept being consistent. And maybe there have been things done over the years to add to it or to improve it, but definitely the prequels echo and carry on. They reverberate. And they not only echo, they reverberate. Isn't it the same thing twice? Yes, it is. Anyway, they echo and reverberate with this style, where it shows you, where we get to see these grand spaces, we get to see these wide, distant, still shots, establishing shots, if you will, but they're more than establishing shots, they're establishment shots, they're what everything is based on. Because even though I love Star Wars as a story about characters, and really a story about this family, so it's a very narrow focus, there's something absolutely gorgeous in the way it's presented, and in the way it's, shot and directed and shown on screen. And I think it gives a certain weight to these places that we go, that we have these big, wide, relatively long, even though they are short, establishing scenes. And it's not that we, get to see a person moving through a hallway and they're wearing Jedi robes, so we know we're in the Jedi Temple. First, we see the Jedi Temple. We see outside of Jabba's palace after Leia's been captured, and she's out of her, I can't remember the guy's name, but she's out of her disguise, where she's speaking Ubi's. She's out of that disguise, and she's, captured with Jabba, and you get this wide establishing shot with the silly, toad thing eating a little critter. And I really like all that stuff, and it doesn't stop. Endor, we get to see the beauty of the sanctuary moon of Endor, and it's just amazing. All these different shots of these places, you really get to feel them, or at least I do. I feel something about these places based on, I believe, the way that they're framed and shot and portrayed to us. And then we get into all the crazy, kooky, Star Wars sci-fi, Muppets and puppets action, and I don't know, I just like it. And maybe the affection for those types of shots was nurtured in me as I watched this as a kid. Maybe not. Maybe it's just good filmmaking, and good filmmaking will always out. I don't know. But I just wanted to remark on that, because it's something I kept thinking about. I thought about it all through Phantom Menace, and Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Empire, A New Hope, and now Return of the Jedi, and I had to say something about it. Next thing I want to say is, as much as I appreciate the revolutions and the changes made in filmmaking, I find something charming about a lot of the original effects in the original trilogy. In particular, I absolutely love, and I find it to be, I don't want to say it's actually beautiful because it's gruesome, but I do find it entertaining the way that the effect is done for the lightning. And I'm talking specifically about when the Emperor, good old Sheev Sidious, is electrocuting Luke. You get this, hand-drawn, animated on cells, on 35mm cells, lightning attacking the guy. And that's really cool. That's really neat how that effect is done. I also love it in Gremlins 2 when the Gremlins are getting electrocuted at the end there. And anyway, just, I don't know. I think animation is beautiful, and I think animation is really special. And I don't quite know why it is, but I think it is. And one of the things that's really neat, and that proves that care and attention to detail went into this, is that at one point the lightning dances across Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker's teeth as he's getting electrocuted, and that's just special. And not only does it look neat, but it looks neat from a detached perspective. It looks painful from an attached perspective, and really thinking about getting into the character and the anguish that the actor is portraying, that's got to be its own special little version of hell where you're being electrocuted. Lightning is consistently being flowed through your body against your will, which I never knew of lightning ever being flowed through someone's body with their will, but anyway, this is against their will. And it's even going across your teeth and hurting you in that special way that you thought only a dentist could do. So it's just kind of interesting. It's a really interesting detail, and it shows the savagery and the brutality of the Emperor of Sidious, and perhaps of the Sith themselves. And it's interesting because while this is one man being made to suffer and one man being put through pain, you could say that it is emblematic of the kind of pain and the sadistic joy, the sadistic nature, and the callousness and disregard for decency and human life that characterizes Sidious and everything that he does to the galaxy. And I did not mean to say this, but I set up the ball for myself, so I'm going to spike it now. And that's why I think people who say that the Empire did nothing wrong, or the Empire are the good guys, are crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I like how evil Sidious is because of what a threat it makes him, and how serious of a threat it makes him, and how imperative it makes it that he is neutralized, that the Sith are put at bay. Oh, I wanted to say something else, but I'll leave that for another time, getting into the Revenge of the Sith probably. So anyway, I liked all that. What else? From a story perspective, seeing Luke get to the point where he has to be willing to confront Anakin, it's unclear or to confront Vader. It sure seems as if Ben and Yoda are content with the idea that Luke has to kill Vader, that he has to kill Sidious. And I don't know if they think that him killing Vader will power him up, level him up, so to speak, so that he will be able to then kill Sidious, or if, I don't know, they're just kind of taking things on faith, and they're taking it one Sith at a time. I live my life one Sith at a time. One Sith slaying at a time, perhaps. Sorry. So, like, I wonder if that's their perspective. It's a little unclear. I can see where the advice and the counsel that they're giving Luke is meant to shore him up and prevent him from falling to the dark side, from himself becoming a Sith, from being pulled into the treacherous Sith trap. And obviously that's a good thing. They don't want the suffering to persist and to continue. But then, you know, they kind of have their contingency plan. They don't know what Luke's going to do necessarily, but then they kind of have their contingency plan that if he fails, then Leia can take over and carry on his training. And I suppose had Luke died or fallen to the dark side, that then Yoda and Ben would have both appeared to her as Force ghosts and taught her to be a Jedi and given her the capability to kill or redeem her brother. It's unclear from the film itself if, like, Luke is in absolute rebellion against Ben and Yoda by going off to save Vader. He feels like he must face him. And Ben never tells him you have to kill Vader, but he says you must confront him. So that's a little dodgy. It's a little bit of using a technicality to get out of doing something. But Luke did confront Vader. He confronted Vader and he appealed to the Anakin within him, and ultimately that's what brought him into safety. That's what, you know, pulled or awoken. That's what woke up Anakin from the shell of Darth Vader and got him to choose something else, to choose to give up his own life for another, as opposed to take the lives of others to save his own or to save the life of somebody near him. I guess if you put it that way, he traded Sidious's life for Luke's life, which is what he did with the younglings and Padme. But mechanically it's the same, but I think morally it's definitely different, and I think you can see the differences there, although maybe there's a little bit of a weakness in the way that was structured so that it could have been stronger. But really, okay, here's what it is. Anakin gave up his own life as he knew when he fought against Sidious that he would die. And there was something, I can't remember if it was in this movie or if it was in Empire, but when Vader tells Luke, you don't understand the power of the dark side, I must obey my master. I kind of think that was in this way in the elevator scene after he was armed only with this, which I love that line delivery. It's so fun. Anyway, but he tells him that. So, like, this does work. It is the moral answer, the moral repairing of his moral failing before. Anakin wanted to save Padme and their unborn child. In order to do that, he murdered a bunch of people. At no risk to himself, I'll say, because he was so powerful. Vader turned his back on the Sith at his own risk. He, as Anakin, picked up and threw the Emperor. Even though he knew he would die, he knew his life would, not only would it be forfeit, but he would be dead by the end of this scenario. And he did it all for the sake of saving his son. And I think that's a really big deal, and it shows a growth, and it shows the ascension from selfishness to selflessness, that Vader didn't care anymore if he died and he had to lose and give up all his power. He loved his son and he wanted to save his life, because in that moment him giving up his life could afford him that. And, like, would it have been more impactful if he had saved some Joe Schmo who he didn't know by killing the Emperor and, you know, ending his own life? Probably. But that's not what we got here. It's his son who compels him to that act of selflessness. And I don't think it is accurate to say that parents' selflessness towards their children is not valid because their children are known to them and deserving of their love. Because you can still be a bad, neglectful parent and refuse to give your children what they need in favor of giving yourself what you need or want, as the case often is, because of your selfishness ruling over the selflessness that you could show and express. So, anyway, I don't know what to say about that. I really like that. I thoroughly enjoy the idea that Leia posed as a super deadly, if pint-sized bounty hunter and threatened to blow up herself and 3PO and R2 and Chewbacca and, you know, Jabba and a bunch of other people, if he didn't pay her the right price. Like, that was a really cool move. That was very cool. Like, that whole Jabba's palace sequence is, like, weird and a little, honestly, looking back at it, it's a little too edgy, a little too dark for me in some ways. Like, well, it's, yeah. I wish people were dressed more appropriately there. I'll say that for sure. You know, the slave dancers are one thing. Slave dancers in, you know, practically no clothing at all, that's another thing that I think, honestly, is awful. Especially if Lucas said that, you know, Star Wars is for 12-year-olds. You're not supposed to say this. Well, I don't want my 12-year-old seeing that. I personally would refrain from seeing that. Yeah. I don't know if that means I'm never going to watch this movie again, because this is my favorite Star Wars movie, but it's just, yeah, I can look away. Anyway, not good stuff there. So, a little strange, a little moralizing for me there, but that's okay. You can handle it. You're an adult. I know you can handle a difference of opinion, and I know you can handle nuance, so we're going to be okay. Anyway, so that whole, like, you know, 30 to 45 minute beginning adventure where they're saving Han is really cool. And it's interesting because, like, the opening crawl doesn't really set us up for this is going to be the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. It's, hey, these rebels are having a hard time. They are on the back foot still. They're having trouble, and the Empire is about to make a big move, and these guys are in trouble. And then you get into the movie, and there's the rescue of Han, and it's not that he's such a valuable asset that he helps the rebellion be where it needs to be, but he's pulled back into the adventure by his friends saving him, and then you get to see their next big adventure. But in the meantime, you know, Luke takes his little side trip, his detour to Dagobah, and that puts him in the frame of mind of, you know, he eventually is one day going to confront Vader. And it's just interesting how you know, ostensibly, like if this were a TV show or something, this could have been like the end of an arc or the high point of an arc that sets up Luke to have a confrontation with the big bad being Vader and the bigger bad being Sidious, you know, years down the line. But, you know, in the story and universe and in the movie, it's not that far away, you know, time-wise. Whereas it, you know, it really could have been. They could have flashed forward 10 years, because why not? We've done that before, right? So that's kind of interesting that, you know, you have this little adventure and it kind of ties things up, and it gives the rebels a victory, even though it's more, you know, Luke and his friends. It gives them a victory, and things are tidy, and then it's kind of like there's two movies, you know. It reintroduces this big threat from the Empire, and it's almost like a redux of, you know, the attack on Yavin 4 and, you know, the fight with the original Death Star, except people are in different places and doing, you know, slightly different things. And you have the more direct, you know, obviously you have the more direct confrontation between Vader and Sidious and Luke. And it's just, it's kind of unexpected. Like, it didn't have to be this way. You know, we could have never met the Emperor. I know he's an Empire, but he's just a hologram in that. And, you know, he could have stayed that way for a long time, and there could have been the looming threat out there, but that's not what we got. I don't know, I like the parallel of how Luke is, you know, tempted, and I feel like he's giving into the dark side a little bit in his fight with Vader. Like, I think he essentially uses and taps into the dark side in order to overpower Vader and defeat him. And it's not until the Emperor is clapping and laughing and telling him, like, great, you're using the dark side. This is exactly what you need to do, my young apprentice. Which this is not the first time he's called him his apprentice. I think it's not until Luke throws his lightsaber that he rejects the dark side, and he embraces the Force in its, you know, fullness, you could say. And he does the right thing. He does the generative thing. He does the life-giving thing, which is, no, I'm not going to fight you. And kind of, I'm going to have faith that my friends are going to kill you and my dad and me all on this ship, and, you know, wipe out and end your evil, because that's not something I'm capable to do. Interesting. It's kind of like a very humble move. Like, look, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to cause the distraction. I'm going to be the diversion, which will enable you to kill them, because while I cannot take them on my own 100%, I can serve as a distraction and as a diversion, which will enable you, my friends, with all this great, might of, I don't know, a dozen rebel, cruisers, cruiser class ships, plus all the fighters and stuff, and the ground crew, to be able to take out these two men. So it's like, I'm this one man who knows enough to be dangerous and who knows enough to be a distraction so that a whole army can take out two guys. And that's very interesting. Talk about selflessness and, choosing to put yourself at risk to save others, to save your friends, to save those you care about. That's definitely what Luke's doing, and I think that's the Jedi way. And I don't know, I think it's really cool. I like the story of redemption of Anakin, but it's not just about him, and it's not just about his redemption. It's about the struggle that Luke has, to a lesser extent that Leia has, with who they are and the power they have and what they can do with it, or what they will choose to do with it. So, I mean, you could say ultimately Star Wars is about showing you, what... maybe showing you that your choices do matter, and showing you that, having the will to stand up and fight for what's right, and the will to do the right thing even if it hurts, is a good thing, and it's a really good moral to have, and it's a good way to live, even if it might end your life quickly, which of course doesn't happen for our heroes, but they're definitely at risk of it a lot. So I don't know, it's very cool, but it's also, I think, instructive and encouraging, and I like so much of it. Anyway, I'm a big fan. I really like these movies. One last kind of fun, cool thing is, I like how even though Vader's wearing a death mask, which is what it's been referred to by several characters, probably even in the novelization of Return of the Jedi, New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back, Vader's death mask, it gets to be emotional. The way that he moves around his body and his head, the way he's looking at different things, the way the lightning flashes onto his face as his mask, as Luke's being electrocuted, all these different things, they work together in a really interesting way to make it feel like there is emotion coming through Vader, even though there shouldn't be. And I think that's pretty interesting. I think that's a cool cinematic trick, and yeah, I think that's neat. So again, my verdict is Return of the Jedi is probably the greatest Star Wars movie of all time, one of the greatest movies of all time. I really like it, and now that I've watched all of this, I'm very happy with the state of Star Wars. Now I'm going to watch Ahsoka, and I'll let you know how I'm feeling about the state of Star Wars. Because honestly, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the first episode of this or not, but I didn't watch Mando Season 3. I didn't watch Andor. How could you be interested in that show? Just the premise of it doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. I didn't watch Kenobi. I didn't watch Bad Batch Season 2. I didn't watch Visions 1 or 2 or Tales of the Jedi. I watched one episode of Tales of the Jedi, and it was really cool. It was with Ahsoka and her mom and dad and stuff. Anyway, it was like a wolf sort of thing. That was kind of interesting. So I'm a little dubious about certain things, and I'm definitely not a Star Wars hater. I'm a Star Wars lover. I've been enjoying the books, the EU books, recently, and I listened to one of the Lando and Luke book, and that was interesting. I won't say much more about it now, but it was not the book I was looking for. Let me say that. So, I'm giving it a chance. I like Clone Wars. I like Rebels. I like Ahsoka's appearances in Rebels and what she did there. And I'm curious to see what Filoni will do with her. I like what he did in Mando Seasons 1 and 2. So we'll see what happens. And I didn't stay away from these things because of the reviews. I stayed away from these things because I'm trying to do a lot of other stuff, write other things, watch and review other stuff, and pursue my drawing and my creative work and, get myself to be a published author. So I only have so much time, but I thought, you know what, I'm interested enough in the Ahsoka character and in seeing where this goes and how they're going to tie together Thrawn and Ezra and all these things from Rebels. And it's this continuation of, Rebels is like a continuation of Clone Wars, and the show's like a continuation of that, and I really love Clone Wars, so like, where's that going to go? So we shall see what I think about this newfangled Ahsoka show, what Filoni does with it, and how I feel like it gels with these movies, because I feel like these 6 movies are fantastic, and that all of Star Wars should gel with them. I'm not saying it can't be different from them at all, but it needs to gel with them, and we're going to see what I think about that after I watch Ahsoka. I'll talk about it as a show first, and then I'll talk about how it blends in with the rest of, with the Star Wars saga. So, anyway, until next time, folks, this is MJ signing out. I hope you take care of yourselves, and, yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. Go to mjmunoz.com to leave any questions, comments, or other feedback you might have. There you can find all of my analysis, art, and fiction. I cover books, tokusatsu, comic books, anime, and more. Look around. You're sure to find something else that you'll enjoy as well. This has been a Story Over Everything production.